we have this test, and what Alan Turing said was basically, if you talk to a terminal and you can't tell if it's a machine or a human, there's a machine and a human, you can't tell which one is which, then that machine is intelligent. But Jeremy Clarkson actually picked on something crucial Alan Turing actually said. It has some kind of intelligence. He didn't say it was the definitive test for intelligence. And many people argue about the Turing test being a test for intelligence or not. So, I'm just going to show you a few things about the Turing test, and then I'm going to let Patrick talk about this a little bit more. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but of course you can look at these online. I mentioned before that one of the very first examples of this was ELIZA, which was, it's a machine parsing program that was set up as a Rogerian therapist. And people have recreated this in JavaScript now, so you can go to a web page and talk to ELIZA. So who has a psychological problem they want to discuss?
I hear voices.
Oh. I hear voices. Ah, please continue.
In my feet?
Dark voices. Tell me more.
In my feet, someone said.
Sorry?
I hear voices in my feet.
In your
feet?
Feet. That's it. Now, I know how the program works. So if I say, I want to kill my sister, suppose you've got to kill your sister. Yeah? It appears intelligent. It appears to understand what you're saying. Anyone got an idea how it's actually working?
It's parsing the language, and it has like a tree distribution of words that it'll give based on the language you're giving. So if it understands like that you're making a statement of my sister, it's going to ask you like how you feel about that specific instance of what you put.
That's exactly it. How do you feel about it could have said, how do you feel about kill your sister? The grammar wouldn't know, the tense wouldn't have been correct, but it may have asked that. Yeah?
I feel like the concept of like a fortune cookie, like it could go to like could mean anything to anybody, and everybody would want to be like, okay, well at least you're listening to me and understanding.
Well, this is it. It always asks, tell me more about that, or explain that, or how do you feel about that, and just gets you to talk more. And people felt very comfortable with that, just keeping talking to this machine. It was quite successful. The reason I put sister in is it recognises members of the family, so it could have asked, is there any other member of your family you want to kill? And you think it's intelligent because it knows that thing about sister. But it's actually very, very simple. It's easy to confuse. So let's look at one that won a prize recently. This is one of the ones, they have a conversation for the best Turing test. This is one that won a couple of years ago, it's online. It said it feels sleepy. This is Jabberwocky. Someone asked you a fairly complex question.
What's the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? Oh, doesn't like that. I may need to think. The meaning of life is to create more life.
That's
Anything else?
What does create mean?
What do you mean by create? Who created you? Not a very good answer, throwing it back. Let's do a matrix answer. Architect. The architect of what?
What happens when you ask if it's intelligent? You're like, are you intelligent? Like, do you have a mind or something?
Oops.
I know with Siri, like they respond with like sarcasm sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all sarcastic. Yes.
Ask me what intelligence
intelligence is. Ask me what intelligence is.
What?
Ask me what intelligence is.
Okay. Yeah, what is... Human intelligence. Yeah. But you've got to appreciate that if you go for many, many years now, the worst thing someone who runs a chat room can have is an empty chat room. You won't go in there on your own with one person. So these things sit in chat rooms, pretending to be people. And there's always 2 or 3 of them in a chat room, so that the chat room's never empty. So whenever you join any kind of internet forum or group, there's always a couple of these running in the background. And of course, sometimes they talk rubbish, but everyone talks rubbish in chat rooms. So you never notice that you're talking to a machine half the time. I just did a search before I came, and I quite like this one, the fake Captain Kirk. So identify yourself, he said, I am Damien.
Do you mean your name is Damien?
Yes.
Welcome to the Enterprise, Damien.
Where are we going?
The planet's surface.
You want to ask Captain Kirk anything?
What is the start? What is the current star date?
Stardate Tuesday, February 12th, 2013.
You really have an affair with Spock.
Now that's a good question. An affair with Spock.
I am having a blast.
That's more information than we need.
Can you put that one on Canvas for us?
Put this on. It is on Canvas.
Okay.
This one's linked on.
Okay.
You've got Eliza Jabberwack in Kirk. But you can search. There are hundreds of these. One of the things they do is they load speeches. So they may load every speech George W. Bush ever gave into it, so that it responds with lots of his mannerisms and words. But it's the same engine, but it learns the kind of language of a certain person. There's a Marilyn Manson one, you can talk to Marilyn Manson. So you can build these things up. Now, I'm going to finish this by an interview with the philosopher Daniel Dennett. Anyone know what Dennett's mainly famous for?
Discussing consciousness and...
A particular philosophical thought experiment. No, a particular thought experiment. Daniel Dennett, D-E-N-N-E-T-T. The zombie. His zombie paradox, which we may talk about later, but basically you have hundreds of billions of neurons in your head. If I replace one of them with a piece of silicon, are you still you? Even though that piece of silicon has the same weights and does the same thing. Most people say yes. If I replace 10, are you still you? 100, 1,000? Even though your memories don't change because the weights are the same in the silicon that we're replacing. 50%, are you still you? And so on. If we get to 100%, are you still you? At what point, what percentage do you stop being human? That's his thought experiment he became very famous for. So, because all you're doing is replacing the individual neurons. If the mechanical replicas behave exactly the same as the organic ones, what's the difference? Yeah. An interesting thought, and there isn't an answer, it's something that is discussed still. But